We have a wonderful lineup for you. We're going to talk about transformation, which is the theme of the event. And we're going to talk about transformation through the industry, transformation through customer lens, partner lens, and how AWS is assisting with the migration journey. I'm the Global Alliance Lead for VMware Cloud on AWS, and my name is Rima Olinger. I'm being joined with my colleagues. We have Wen Yu, who is our Partner Solution Architect. We're privileged to get two speakers. One is our customer from SMP Global, Zak Murad, and we also have our partner lead from RoundTower, Andre Wu. So that will come throughout the presentation. Starting with the industry transformation, we are all going through this transformation journey. And this digital transformation, it's really the integration of your digital footprint with your business needs. So you're transforming your business and you are digitizing all your processes and operations, and you're changing the way you create customer value, and you're changing the way that you operate. You're also getting very comfortable with experimenting, with trying new things, with questioning the status quo, and with getting comfortable with failure. And with this transformation in place, AWS is joining you on this journey. And one of the things that we have started to do is we have expanded our product services and product offerings to accommodate that transformation. So we have the broadest set of features and services, and the gap continues to increase between AWS and the other cloud providers. With AWS specifically as it relates to this, and what we try to do is to make sure that you're aware that there is a large footprint of customers, millions of customers who are actively using the platform, and thousands of partners that are global. We also are providing you with a global footprint where we are up to 22 regions and 69 availability zones. In terms of services and features, the pace of innovation is very fast. Where we started in 2011 with only 80 services, we are up to 80 services and features. We are up to 1,957 features as of March, and that continues to expand. Specifically, as it relates how this introduction led us to the hybrid cloud and VMware Cloud on AWS specifically, is as we introduced these services, which were in the areas of compute, storage, networking, databases, IoT, containers, we expanded in an area that is the hybrid cloud computing, and that is what you are seeing with VMware Cloud on AWS. We realized that that the stats tell us today with different market analysts that there is a huge market opportunity that we are seeing that equates $96 billion by 2023. The majority of the enterprise applications are still staying on-prem. But there is a large portion of customers that are moving to hybrid cloud. What is driving this move is as follows. Number one, they want some workloads the customers want to retain on-prem. For other workloads, customers wish to move to the cloud. And they want their on-prem environment and their cloud environment to be compatible and to coexist together. And moreover, they want to use and leverage the investment that they have made in their skills and resources. And stemming from this customer need, there was this joint collaboration between VMware and AWS. VMware being the de facto standard for enterprise data center, being the leader in compute, storage, and network virtualization, and having the ability to support multiple workloads. You merge that with the capabilities that AWS brings to the table with the global footprint of 22 regions and 69 availability zones, with the broad range of services, 165 plus services, with the depth of the features that are available and the large number of customers that have adopted this service. You come up with this very differentiated, unique cloud offering that we are describing as VMware Cloud on AWS. And with VMware Cloud on AWS, now you have the operational consistency that the customers have been asking for. You also have the ability to use your existing tools and resources. You have SLA, enterprise application SLAs that are tied to that as part of the offering. And as such, I would like to just bring in Wenyu to go over the reference architecture for it before we can continue further.
Thanks, Rima. Instead of doing a sound check by asking if you could hear me, how many of you in the audience are APN partners? And customers? Okay. And how many of you are technical in nature? You do like solutions architects? Okay, so a few of you. Okay, actually quite a bit of you. Okay, so I'll have some technical contents to share with you. Not 400 level, but I promise it's 200 to 300 level-ish. And what you see here is actually the solutions architecture for this service. So what you see on your left is the on-premises data center. Many of you in the audience might have that, and you service your customers that are running workloads on premises. What's in the middle is the VMware Cloud on the AWS solution. The compute, networking, and storage services are offered by VMware's vSphere Hypervisor, vSAN for storage virtualization, and networking and security by NSX. Okay? All of those are architected to run on top of AWS infrastructure. So what you see in the left and the middle is what allows that seamless migration of your applications running on premises with VMware virtualization. It could be as simple as right-clicking onto a virtual machine, select migrate, and use vMotion migration from on-prem to AWS, just like that. And what that allows customers to do that's unique to this service is really what you see from the middle to the right. So what you see, the bidirectional arrow, is what we call the Elastic Network Interface, the ENI, that provides the access from your workloads running on vSphere, software-defined data center, in the middle, to access various native services that we have across networking, security, operational management, data analytics, data warehousing. So it's really a customer's choice and flexibility to leverage these services as they see a business fit for them. Okay? So from a high level, that's the solutions architecture. Remember, from the left to the right is seamless from the migration from on-premises into the AWS cloud, and then the extension of these services at the customer's choice. Okay? Since the inception of this service back in August of 2017, it was in Las Vegas as well, VMworld US. That's when we announced the initial availability of the VMware Cloud on AWS service. And since then, we have been innovating on behalf of our customers and partners like yourself. So based on customer feedbacks, we have added additional features across the board in compute. For example, new instance type that has denser storage options for customers that have workloads that require more storage capacity. For networking, we added microsegmentation with NSX. We added the ability to have customer leverage the transit gateway for easier and simpler network connectivity between on-premises, as well as the various VPCs that they have with their AWS native workloads. For storage, we added the ability to integrate with Elastic Block Store, our block storage offering, coupled with the R5 instance to provide denser storage options for our customers. And operational management, we add the ability for customers to leverage something like Systems Manager to populate the CloudWatch agents and ingest the CloudWatch logs and metrics into AWS, and simply take advantage of the innovation that we have for customers with the AWS platform. Okay? Just to give you some stats on what we have done in the past 2 years, we have released 200 plus features, and it's in direct response to customers and partners like yourself. We have expanded the service. Initially, it was available in the US, one region, and then we were able to expand it to 16 global regions across 41 availability zones. And then we have 25 major and minor updates. Like I mentioned, we did the new instance type, and we added the ability to support direct connect, so we could accelerate the migration from a premises into AWS, going through direct connect to our backbone. We have added the ability for customers to deploy the vSAN stretch cluster across availability zones with the click of a button. During deployment time, if you have used the service before, you could simply click on the UI and enable the vSAN stretch cluster to span across the 2 availability zones to have synchronous replication of writes. So you have up to 4 nines of availability. Stagecoach is our reference customer that has done exactly that and achieved highest level of SLA for their mission critical applications that track the locations of various metro buses. And then we have the host provisioning. So this is something that our customers love, is the ability to add hosts or remove hosts based on the workload needs. So on average, the time it takes to add a host to your SDDC cluster is 12 minutes. We're not talking about a host that you just provision with nothing on it. It's basically the entire software-defined data center stack by VMware on bare metal EC2 instance added to the cluster and ready to use. Compare that to on-premises where customers have to wait for the PO to go through and the server to come in, rack and stack, install software, the whole 9 yards. That usually takes weeks, if not months. So imagine the ability for you to just provision a host on demand quickly. That would give you the ability to just run your resource cluster to a higher utilization and thereby give you better ROI. And last but not least, the time it takes to create an entire stack, software-defined data center, SDDC, stack with vSAN, vSphere hypervisor, vCenter server, NSX, takes on average 65 minutes. Right? So compare that to weeks, months, or even 6+ months. That is great amount of heavy, undifferentiated heavy lifting that we take off the customer's shoulders. And based on the Forrester study that VMware has commenced, we have interviewed a number of customers that have been using the VMware Cloud on AWS service for over 6 months with minimum of 8 nodes that's deployed. So we wanted to do a study with the customers on what kind of ROI. At the end of the day, right, you question your investment. Do I get the right amount of ROI by investing and adopting this particular service? And the answer is absolutely yes. And the stats that you see here is we see over 100% ROI in less than 3 months across the customers that are in this study. Okay, and there are 4 qualified benefits that the customers have informed us, right, in these categories. First one is the software and hardware refresh. So the customers, by using this service, they no longer have to do hardware refresh just to modernize the data center. So there's cost savings there. And the second thing is the operational cost to run and manage workloads in a data center, having racks and racks of servers and networking gears and storage, and just having to manage data center capacity. So customers are seeing benefits in that area. And there's the elimination or avoidance of having to refactor your entire on-premises application just so that it could run on AWS. So the customers, by adopting the service, we mentioned earlier, we allow seamless migration by right-clicking into a virtual machine and select Live Migrate into AWS. So that eliminates the need for you to refactor your application just so they can get modernized. So instead, the customers can easily migrate using vMotion or hybrid cloud extension, or using your favorite data protection software to take a backup, ingest into Amazon S3 object storage, and do a restore into SDDC without any conversion into native EC2 AMI, Amazon machine images, without having to connect into a VPC that you have to manually create. So all of those are abstracted so you get that experience. So customers are realizing the benefits that they get not having to refactor. And of course, the ability for customers to not have to manage data centers and get away from data center investments. If they run out of capacity, power, cooling, or rack space, they can simply provision, like Rima was mentioning, the hybrid cloud deployment, add additional capacity in the cloud instead of having to buy servers, networking gears, and equipments. And in addition to the qualified benefits that are listed here, customers also told us that they get benefits from having the infrastructure and application teams taking more actions to do more innovative projects as a result, because all of the undifferentiated heavy lifting is taken off their shoulders. They don't have to do server deployments, they don't have to install software, they don't have to keep the software up to date, because all of this is packaged together as a managed service that's run and operated by VMware, working closely with us. Okay, so that's a public case study that you could download. So if you do work with customers on a regular basis, this is a good report for you to read. It's a very easy 20-page read for you to understand what customers are telling us about the cost savings and the benefits that they get. And if you happen to be a customer, and like many of you in the audience, then it's a good read as well, so you could understand what your peers in the industries are doing to innovate for their business. Okay, so we talk about customers and what they're telling us. So the top use cases that we have seen from customers are the following. And the first one being the hybrid cloud deployment with the data center extension. So this is the case where, Playtika, for example, as a reference customer, and SMP Global that you would get to hear, is where the data center would run out of capacity and the customer would have the business need to expand the footprint without having to invest in additional data center footprint. So that could be easily integrated into the environment. Like I said, add a host takes sub 10 minutes, and add an entire cluster takes about 65 minutes. So that is a key enabler for customers to do data center extension in a hybrid deployment. The second one is that disaster recovery. So customers learn to love to do DR replication from on-premises into AWS using the built-in service add-on with VMware Site Recovery, the ability to replicate on-premises into AWS, do testing with VMware Site Recovery, as well as actual failover. And with this one, I've seen customers where they have the ability to fail over and into AWS infrastructure, and they realize the workloads run much faster on the cloud. So as a result, they reverse the DR protection. So they do DR protection of the AWS cloud with their on-premises data center, flip around the production. And the third use case is the evacuation of data centers. Customers that want to get away from not having to deal with data centers altogether or colo spaces. When the contract's up for renewal, they have the ability to use the service and just eliminate data centers altogether. Last but not least, we have data center, the application modernization, the ability for customers to say, with a database workload, to ingest data into a data warehousing solution, and also build data lake with Amazon S3 or using Lake Formation, using the source, which is running on VMware Cloud and AWS. So with that, customers do not have to do a refactoring exercise just to modernize their application. So with that, we have a number of customer references that you see there with Blinks and also Stagecoach. And as partners, you do have a huge amount of service attachment opportunities based on the workload types. I'll give you a few examples here. And for you as a customer, this is something for you to consider as well once you migrate into this service, is the ability for you to extend your application to take advantage of our data protection services, our data analytics service. For example, Oracle, to migrate from Oracle RAC, for example, running on-prem to VMware Cloud and AWS, you could easily take a backup of your Oracle production database, restore it into VMware Cloud and AWS, and enable data guard replication. So you can do the seamless switch over into AWS without any refactoring. And then you could take the application, for example, the front-end application, and have application integration with Elastic Beanstalk. So your dev and test and your application farm can run and powered by Elastic Beanstalk. And you can back up your Oracle database into Elastic File System, EFS, or Amazon S3. And you can use database migration service to modernize your database and have database freedom. Or you could have, let's say, integration with analytics with AWS Glue to build a centralized catalog, incorporating your migrated Oracle RAC database into your centralized catalog for data warehousing as well as for data lake analytics. So all of these are investment opportunities for you as a customer as well as a partner, so you can expand your service portfolio to cover those aspects. And SQL Server, very similar example. We have built-in integration with directory services. We have the ability to ingest data into Amazon S3 and upload into Redshift for data warehousing needs. And we have the ability for you to centrally manage your Windows-based SQL Server workload with Systems Manager. And last but not least, we have high memory instance that customers have been using to deploy SAP HANA on native EC2. And what customers are telling us is the ability for them to seamlessly integrate that deployment on native EC2 environment using X1 or X2 instances, and couple that with the dev and test front end, or as well as the application front end that's running SAP in the VMware vSphere cluster. That seamless integration is what enables customers to really enjoy those benefits of these 165 plus services that you could integrate as a partner on behalf of them. And here's a list of industry and compliance certifications we have achieved with the VMware Cloud and AWS service. We're not stopping here, so based on your feedback, we will continue to invest in this area, working closely with our friend at VMware. And I mentioned earlier, we have expanded out of our 22 global regions. We have the service available in the following regions, all 16. And based on feedback from you all, we continue to add additional regions that we have the service support. And with that, let's hear from our customer that's joining us. So Rima will lead the discussion with Zak.
Thanks, Win. So we have customers who have gone through the transformation journey. I'll invite Zak Murad on stage, if you'll give me just a second. I know you came from the East Coast. You woke up very early this morning. Thank you for doing that. Many of the customers that have transitioned and moved into AWS or VMware Cloud on AWS, they indicated that one of the key reasons that they were doing that is because of the agility, the ability to provision hundreds and thousands of servers on the fly. Other reasons they told us is because of the ability to do the global expansion in minutes. Others told us that it was because of the elasticity. They don't have to over provision, and so they saved on costs for the company and others. So there's many reasons that AWS customers have chosen to move into VMware Cloud on AWS. One of our lucky customers who have done that journey is Zak Murad. Zak is the managing director of the global head of infrastructure and operations at SMP Global. Whatever you feel comfortable, we don't have. Yeah. Usually these are for the vertically challenged people, not very comfortable.
I think I'm vertically challenged too, that's fine.
Okay, Zak, let's start with SMP. If you could provide the audience with background on what does SMP Global do
Sure.
today.
Thank you, Rima. And can you hear me? I just want to make sure that, great, thank
Woohoo!
you. Yes,
Okay.
It works. So SMP Global Ratings is a division within SMP Global, and one of the major things that we do is push out ratings. So if you have bonds or if there's a corporate rating on a company, that is what we do. We have over 1 million credit ratings that are out there. We have over 1,400 credit analysts that work worldwide across a lot of different locations. One thing that's fairly unique about us is how heavily regulated this industry is. We have over 13 regulatory bodies that regulate us. So those of you that are looking at pharma or some of the other financial entities that are also fairly regulated, then some of our experience would actually be in line with what you have experienced as well.
So usually heavy regulated industries have to be very good in under high availability, or else you incur penalties, correct? Or?
Absolutely. So it's you know, some of these things, the regulators dig very deeply into it. For example, we're one of the very few CRAs or credit regulatory agency or ratings agency, and if we're out of the market, then it can have a very large impact. For example, if a rating does not go out on a company and there's a major event, you can see how disastrous that can be, because analysts and traders are expecting to see what that means as far as the company is concerned. So it can be quite disruptive.
Great. How about the business need? If you could share with the audience, what was the business need that SMP Global had that prompted you to look at a hybrid cloud approach to start with?
Sure. So, we were in a very interesting area. So about 2 years ago, we started on a fairly major transformation. We had most of our software developers as well as our support fully outsourced. So about 80% of our staff was outsourced. So we started insourcing. And as we were insourcing, we decided, hey, while we're insourcing, why don't we start going through agile transformation? So we started agile transformation. So as you can imagine, a fair bit of turmoil when it comes to people and process. Now, since we were transforming people and process, we also had a very old aging data center that was coming up for lease renewal in about 10 months. So why do we want to leave technology alone? So we decided to go on transformation and said, instead of moving to another data center, why don't we move to the cloud? And the challenge was that we needed to get out of the data center in about 8 months, because you need about 2 months to broom clean the data center. While that is going on, the data center itself was in need of a lot of investment, which means that a lot of the networking gear needed upgrades, so there was a lot of instability that the business was getting. And in the middle of all of that, we decided that let's move very, very quickly over to AWS. Now, the challenge is you have about 140, 150, 160 applications that are all snowflakes. And each one is built differently. You have Power Builder, you have Sun Solaris, you have Oracle Exadata, things that will anchor you down onto your data center, where it becomes extremely difficult to try and move these and transform them. So we did have a plan of about 3 or 4 years to really move everything into cloud native. We have cloud native applications on AWS already, but to move something like that was a big challenge. So from a business perspective, it was get me stability, unlock the speed and agility that comes with the cloud, because it takes forever to provision and build and manage on the on-prem data center because everything is done manually. And the one answer that we came out with was, why don't we look at VMware as a solution to allow us to really fast track on our journey to the cloud.
You spoke about the time frame of the 8 months that you had by which you needed to migrate to the cloud. When you first heard, like every other partner or customer on stage, when we say you could deploy an environment in less than 90 minutes, you could add a node, delete it in less than 12 minutes. Did you think that was not real? And then what did your experience teach you? Was it too good to be true? And you're a customer. I know we didn't practice that question.
Absolutely.
But I want to ask about that because I want someone to tell us.
Sure. I mean, we knew about VMware because we had VMware on-prem, and you can go to the console and you can provision things. The issue is not necessarily, hey, how long does it take for me to spin up an image? Because you could do that. You could do that on AWS, and you can spin up an image. It's really what comes after. So we started leveraging a lot of the open source software for our orchestration. For example, we use Terraform to build and manage our EC2 instances. Terraform has a plugin for for VMware. So we said, why don't we try that? And we plugged in Terraform. We have a lot of Ansible playbooks that allow us to manage EC2, and we layered that onto VMware. So it allows us to very, very quickly plumb in VMware into our CI/CD pipeline. And it makes almost no difference whether I have something running on EC2 or VMware. The power comes in as these are traditionally built applications. So I can take an application and I can take that image and I can move it over to AWS very, very rapidly. And then my entire automation pipeline is now fully integrated with the VMware stack. That's something that we just didn't have. If I have a problem as part of the migration, and we had problems, I can very quickly move that back down to on-prem, figure out the problem, fix it, and a weekend later or 2 weekends later, move it back up again. We did that several times just because these traditional applications are brittle. You don't necessarily know the latency requirement to storage because now storage has changed. In some cases, we moved from on-prem, storage to using EBS storage or S3 storage. So think about, I have a completely traditional storage stack, and I'm moving on to AWS, running on top of VMC, and I'm making use of S3 storage. That was very, very interesting.
So thanks for sharing that. So we know that you decided to go hybrid. We know that you chose VMware Cloud on AWS, and now you embarked on your journey. And the specific question is, how did you implement it, and what was the journey like?
Yeah, so the journey was very interesting. In fact, it was a fantastic year because the team was extremely energized because the challenge itself was very interesting. You're doing something very unique, and the partnership with VMware was actually really good as well because we had access to the product engineers, and we were solving things in a very different way. Not a lot of other clients and customers had solved it that way. So the team felt really energized. I think the networking side is where we had spent some time trying to understand how to move things because we were very early. We were using NSXV, and then we migrated over to NSXT. And then from a team perspective, they got to learn the networking inside and out in order for them to be able to manage it. The other side of it, I think, from a journey perspective, the people themselves, the culture side of it came along very well. Because, when you're going through a transformation, I think one of the most significant challenges is the culture side, and you have to find out how do you energize your workforce by giving them really, really interesting challenges. And once they do that, then I think you have a much, much better workforce coming out of it. So the technology itself really opened the doors to anything that we wanted to use on AWS, which we did. And fail fast is something that we embraced very early on, which means that if something is not working, then that's okay. There are many different ways to solve that same challenge. For example, we have a HPC environment that we used EFS storage, and that didn't work. So we started leveraging on-site storage. So we had cases where you would have an application that would be running on the cloud, and the storage may still be on-prem.
Yeah.
And then maybe you're swapping it because you're leveraging the really fast flash storage that comes with VMC, and you don't necessarily want to leverage another storage because you want the IOPS, so maybe you provision an NFS server and then you expose that storage to be able to leverage it. So a lot of different ways to be able to manage it.
Thanks for sharing that. You migrated your applications, and you spoke briefly about integration with AWS services. How are you transforming your migrated applications with those services, like in terms of business impact?
Yeah.
How did you do that? Not just that I moved it to an S3, but what was the business impact that me as a user could see it from the outside?
Sure. So I think one of the things that we did was just recently we instituted SRM, Site Recovery Manager, and as part of that, we significantly reduced the amount of time it takes for us to do DR invocation.
Okay.
That's something that traditionally in our environment, because everything was Snowflake, it was let's get the storage guys on. If any of you have gone through in traditional DR exercise, it could take a while because you have to get teams involved from many different areas. Everything is siloed. You have a storage team, you have a Unix team, you have a Windows team, you have Active Directory team, DNS team, and so on. As we moved into a managed service with VMC, a lot of that was coalesced down to a couple of people. I'm talking about 4 or 5 people that could essentially execute the entire set of process. Things are fairly well automated as far as Ansible is concerned and as far as our Terraform code is concerned. So the entire thing was automated end to end, and we're able to reduce it. So business noticed that especially when we told them that what would have taken hours and hours and hours is essentially gone down to just a couple of hours, and then everything is fully tested and back up and running. Mm-hmm. To me, I thought that was a huge impact.
A curious question we never also agreed on. One of the common things we hear or objections is if I'm managing the IT infrastructure environment, I tend to worry about my job security. And if I am a partner trying to talk and used to talking to this type of employees, how do I navigate the sensitivity that is tied to, more automation, it means I'm out of a job? Or how did you, because you said we're down to 2 people, what happened to the other folks?
Oh no! So again, it's exciting. It's really the culture that you'll run into. You're absolutely right. So from our team, I have a hard time trying to make sure that I hold on to really talented people. It's not that we're actually always on the lookout for really talented people, because the database team, for example, and some of them are here, they've evolved into full cloud engineers. So they are transforming, they're writing Ansible code, they're writing Terraform code, they're doing Unix work, because we're moving towards full stack engineering or site reliability engineering, and that is very exciting. So as you start to do less of the manual work, you start to move up the value chain, and that gives them an incredible career path. They are a lot more demand outside, and the guys themselves are excited. They want to do more rather than do less. So I see complete opposite within my team, where there is zero resistance, and in fact, they want to move faster. We're starting to have conversations with VMware and a whole lot of other people about containerization, serverless, and how do we enable that as part of the stack. And this is something that the teams are actually looking at it right now while we're trying to peel away and saying, what are the which applications do we want to take pieces of it and then move it over? Do we go down a Knative path? Do we go down in an open source path? How do we leverage EKS? All of these things would not be possible if you're spending all your time doing manual updates to DNS server, updates to my Unix, and shutting down storage manually, starting it up. All of that is just very manual, doesn't really give you much sense. You don't really even have job security because those are going to get automated regardless.
Right. Great. Thank you. If we were to talk about the impact on the business in terms of where you audited less, did you have high availability, the number of applications you move, what would that be as a final world that you could share with the audience?
Yeah, so we have much higher reliability, and we can showcase that with the reduction, the drastic reduction in outages. So when we speak with the regulators, we're not just talking about architecture, we're not just talking about our plans, but they're also interested in actually looking at the hard numbers of vulnerabilities, security vulnerabilities in the systems, the level of scanning that we do, the level of testing that we do in the environment, the uptime. You know, uptime is there. If you're down, then you're down, right? Regardless of the reasons behind it. And measurably, we can show that things are starting to get better, significantly better.
Great. Well, thank you for being our customer, and we're very excited to have you. Thank you so much. So in the same way that we saw customer transformation, we also saw partner transformation. And we know that our partners have strongly adopted the VMware Cloud on AWS. We have over 400 plus partners that have chosen to go through that journey. And the big thing, differentiator about the VMware Cloud on AWS value prop is that it allows the partners to focus and assist the customers from moving from an asset heavy, where there is a focus on capital expenditure, to asset light, where you are looking at a fixed cost, or a variable cost, I should say, for your customers. And with that, we have a big network of two types of partners. We've got consulting partners that are assisting, as you know, the customers with the migration journey. And we also have a type of partners, ISVs, that are validating their solutions on VMware Cloud on AWS. We're very fortunate to have with us on stage Andre Wu, VP of Solutions and Services from RoundTower, who has been there from day one with VMware Cloud on AWS. Welcome, Andre. Please join us. So, Andre, if we could start, maybe just if we could share with the audience, what does RoundTower do today, other than all the accolades that RoundTower has? That's what I found on your website, by the way.
Okay, all right. I was going to say, I didn't send you those.
I know.
So RoundTower, we're a 500 plus employee company based out of Cincinnati, Ohio. And we work across the entire IT ecosystem, helping customers modernize their IT environments and ideally maximizing the value they get out of their technology investments. And we work across, like I said, the entire ecosystem, so everything from ServiceNow to VMware to AWS, traditional infrastructure and things of that nature.
Great. So, Andre, RoundTower has been a traditional infrastructure partner that is transitioned into selling cloud services. What I'm interested to know is, how did you make that transition? Because we know that VMware partner community, there is a large number of infrastructure based, and we see this transition happening on both sides, from the infrastructure side to the cloud services side. If you could share with us, what went into the decision as a partner that you wanted to change your business from Model A to Model B?
Yeah, so I think at a high level, as I said, we started about 11 years ago, and about 5 years ago as a partner, we recognized our customers really were looking for more than just traditional infrastructure partner assistance. So for us, we made the pivot then, started to work with our customers both from a private cloud perspective and a public cloud perspective. But I think specifically for VMC, when it came to VMware Cloud on AWS for us, it really came down to three things. One, our customers asking for a solution that we didn't have a fix for. Is it something that financially is viable to us as a company? And three, is it something that will differentiate us as a partner to our customers? So to unpack those a little bit, from a solution perspective, VMware Cloud for us address something that all of our clients were we were seeing in the market when we worked with our customers. And Wen talked about it, Zak talked about it as well, right? Which was customers were struggling with the ability to consume the cost of having to refactor or redevelop applications in order to move to public cloud. And what we saw with VMware Cloud and AWS was an opportunity to overcome that inhibitor, largely because at the time, and this was 2-3 years ago when we got involved with VMware Cloud on AWS, we were not an application development shop. So we didn't have that capability as a partner necessarily to help customers overcome that. So that really helped us, VMware Cloud and AWS helped us overcome that issue. The second was one that we saw both our customers and ourselves deal with, which was we had made a significant amount of investment in terms of IP and in terms of skills and people into the VMware ecosystem, into the traditional AWS ecosystem, and walking away from that was not feasible. So the ability for this platform to pull those skills together was really critical. And then finally for us, the ability to differentiate. So as a traditional partner trying to move from A to B, what we saw in the market was a lot of like born in the cloud partners, probably some of you sitting here today, that for us, when we went out to market to both customers and to even the AWS sales forces, there wasn't necessarily something for us to differentiate ourselves to those customers or to those sellers. By being able to now talk to both AWS and from a cloud native perspective and VMware Cloud and AWS, bringing our skills from the traditional side and from the public cloud side was really key.
Great, thank you for sharing. RoundTower has been instrumental in assisting customer PHH Mortgage with their transformation journey. If you could please share how we started 2 years ago with that, I know because we spoke about that 2 years ago, and how it has evolved till today, so that customers and partners can see what it takes and how the evolution looks like.
Sure, so very interestingly, PHH, very similar, I think, use case to what Zak talked about. Going through a corporate inflection point, they were looking at some restructuring. They were also coming up at the time with exiting out of a managed services contract with a large, top 3 global managed services provider. And they were looking for a change. They wanted to increase the agility in their infrastructure. They wanted to be more flexible, not only from a cost perspective, but also from just an overall financial perspective. So we actually competed against, you would name them, right? I'm not going to right now, but think of the top 5 global companies that present their own kind of public clouds or private clouds, as well as their managed services. To your point earlier, us as a 500-person company, not having our own data centers, VMC and AWS allowed us to essentially propose an asset-light offering from our end, along with our managed services to PHH, and we won. So we beat top 5 global companies leveraging VMC and AWS. So that started as a 300 application migration in essentially 8 months. To exit out of the data centers for them. And since then, that was a 13-node environment. We will move to approximately 90 nodes into the early part of next year. So that environment has grown tremendously. Some of that has happened because they've been acquired by a larger entity. A lot of that has happened because they have basically just enjoyed consuming AWS cloud native services. They have large call centers, so they have moved all of their Citrix environments into VMC and AWS. They have transitioned what was on-prem disaster recovery into VMC and AWS. So just a tremendous move from what started literally at the end of 2017 to now.
And as a partner, yes, you did assist them with the migration services, but what ancillary work it added to your portfolio? Was it like monitoring? Did you have to do anything additional there?
So yeah, no question. I think this experience has helped grow our capabilities in our portfolio. Part of that has absolutely been expanding our ability to monitor all the environments, to provide more proactive optimization. Obviously, as most people know, there are a lot of very advanced tools out there, but helping customers actually consume the tools and then act on the changes inside of their applications and inside their architecture to actually take advantage of those. That's some of the work that we have had to have done. Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. With the experience that you've had in selling VMware Cloud on AWS for 2 years, what does it take, in your opinion, so if I'm a partner sitting in the crowd, what does it take me as a partner to support a customer, and was the ROI worth it?
I'll work backwards. ROI, definitely worth it. I think one of the things, again, for those who've been partners with VMware and AWS both, VMware, we traditionally had seen a 3 to 4 to 5x drag. I think AWS talks about 6x up. Certainly for us, we've seen probably double-digit X return across our portfolio from professional services as well as managed services. In terms of like what I think it takes to support clients, kind of goes back to a little bit what we just talked about. What we saw that we didn't necessarily expect, I think, when we first engaged with PHH was how much they would adopt all of the AWS cloud native services in conjunction with their VMC on AWS environment. So, one of the things that we had to do was invest in our AWS competencies. So, becoming a DevOps competent partner, a well-architected partner as well, and things of that nature. I think that is really critical to understand that you're not just moving a client to another set of resources. They're making this move because they really are looking to do hybrid cloud. They really want to consume all of the different services from both platforms, and you have to transform yourself as a partner to be able to support them in doing that.
Great. And to keep it real, Andre, I know that you as an AWS partner that is dealing with AWS sales reps who are used to selling native cloud, and also you're selling VMware and you're doing the hybrid thing also through VMware. Were you uncomfortable? Were you worried that an AWS sales rep is gonna not work with you closely, or was that concern coming from the AWS side? And how the experience has been in that regards?
Well, our sales reps are always paranoid. Every sales rep's paranoid. But our experience has been really positive. So for us, I think for those who work with AWS sellers, I think we know that they are myopic on really a couple of things, right? One, are you a competent partner to assist that customer? And so investing in your capabilities, being a VMC on AWS Master Services competent partner has allowed us to, I think, get that buy-in from AWS reps, and that's been critical. The second thing is they're most concerned about making sure customers are enabled to be able to consume the services that AWS provides, and they recognize that VMC is a path to that. So for us, both VMware and AWS sellers, it's been a very smooth experience. In fact, we have gotten unsolicited leads from both AWS and VMware reps for customers that are not existing RoundTower customers, which has been a nice experience.
Great, thank you. Any final word of advice that you wish someone would have told you when you said, I'm going to become a VMware Cloud on AWS reseller? Is there any advice that you wish you knew before you had to experience for 2 years? What can somebody do now to avoid some of the challenges you may have gone through?
I think if I were to share one thing, it would be, and this was candidly, I think, I'm not sure it's a mistake, but certainly I think an oversight for us at the beginning is, I think it's natural to think, well, I'm going to have a cloud team and I'm going to ask the cloud guys or gals to do VMC on AWS and they're going to own that. And I think as we look back, we realize it really is, VMware Cloud on AWS as well as AWS itself really needs to be more pervasive skill and talent across the entire organization. Our data protection experts, our networking experts, our security people, all of them really should have been trained and on that, because all of those skills are really required to help clients. So that would be the one thing I'd pass on.
Great. Well, thank you for your time, Andre. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you. And to help you navigate the migration journey, I'm going to turn it over to Wen Yu to share some of the resources AWS have available for you.
Yep. Okay, thank you, Rima. Okay, we're back. Let's talk about how AWS can help you as a customer as well as a partner. So this is what the migration journey looks like for many customers. From years of helping customers working with partners to migrate into AWS Cloud, we have learned that customers just don't wake up one day and say, okay, I have these applications, they have been prioritized, these are the first ones to go to the cloud. That doesn't happen. What happens really is a three-phase journey of the migration. First and foremost is the assessment, the discovery of the application dependencies, having the right business case, and having a priority of the applications that have been discovered along with the dependencies that will go in the cloud in phases, followed by a migration readiness planning, going across not just the solutions architecture design, the deployment, and the tech validation, but also across, like Zach and Andre was mentioning, is really the technical staff across infrastructure as well as application teams, how they can develop expertise, right? Develop a center of excellence for cloud operations. All of those things are factored in the migration plan. So once you have a plan, then you start execution by migrating, doing proof of concept, doing pilot deployments, as well as making sure everything works well and have an operational management and automation plan post-migration, plus native service integration. So from our experience working with thousands of customers with the migration to AWS, we have assets, right? So we have technical assets, we have business assets that can help you in every phase of the journey. So these are migration patterns that are in workload-specific type deployments. For example, Oracle or Oracle RAC, how do you deal with license challenges, passing audits? We have blueprints on how to architect it from beginning to end across all three phases of the journey. SQL Server, for example, and also EUC, end user computing. So we have all of those assets that are available to you as a partner to extend your practice so you can have the value-added service for the customer every step of the way. And these assets help reduce the risk that you have with these complicated applications running on premises, having to migrate to AWS. And along with that, we have financial investments that are acting as accelerators, right? Financial investments in the form of cash compensation, as well as service credits for customers to deploy a proof of concept environment using VMware Cloud, or for you to have your technical staff team to deploy these infrastructure and clusters to play with the service and get comfortable so they can help design the best infrastructure available. And we have AWS tools and resources and services that are available. For example, Cloud Endure in October, we added support to have customers have the ability to migrate into VMware Cloud and AWS as a target. So these are tools that can be made available to you as a customer as well as a partner to get started. And we have technical enablement. We have combination of technical courses that are available to you as a partner as well as a customer. It's happening today. We have a VMware Cloud and AWS technical bootcamp that started at 8 a.m. this morning. It ends at 5 p.m. It doesn't stop there. If your technical staff, if you are not able to make it, not a problem, because those are instructor-led courses that we could repeat and deliver to you as a partner or a customer. That's in addition to all of the self-service trainings that we have available that's specific to VMware Cloud and AWS in our APN portal. And we have engagement templates, right? When you go to market with the solution, you're gonna have, let's say, customer immersion days, workshops, and whatnot that you want to deliver to your end customers. And we have assets that are pre-packaged called Workshop in a Box. So they have business decks, technical slides, as well as the Terraform integration that we have to provision the entire infrastructure, as well as the native service integration. So you could click a few buttons to deploy these templates and use these assets to go GTM execution to attract customers to learn more about the service. And along with that, to help you have that conversation with the C-level staff to understand the business and TCO ROI, similar to the Forrester case study. So we have those assets working closely with our cloud economics team as well as VMware as a partner to provide those information to you so you can have meaningful conversations with your end customers. And we have technical blueprints, reference architectures across different workload types. I mentioned Oracle, SQL Server, end user computing, VDI, virtual desktop infrastructure. From a networking standpoint, integrating with Direct Connect, we have those reference architectures that have been truly validated by the solutions architecture team working with many customers. So these could be serving as the blueprint for you to actually do service level design to have the highest level availability, the best performance optimization. So we just summarized the approaches to migration, right? This is what the methodology we use when we migrate customers' workload to AWS is really the three-phase journey with the assessment, the initial business assessment, followed by discovery of applications, into the migration readiness planning, followed by execution. So every step of the way, we have assets that you could use to expand your service portfolio as a partner or as a customer to consume those reference architectures so you know what the best practices are and how to do cost optimization and performance optimization. And with that, we have migration programs. We have 2 key programs to help accelerate migration for customers. So for those of you that are partners in the audience, if you don't have an AWS migrations competency, Andre mentioned it's crucial to work with customers and work with AWS sales reps to understand, so they can know that you are a competent partner with migrations. With VMware Cloud and AWS, it does qualify. If you migrate a customer into VMware Cloud and AWS, that could be used as a case study for you to submit your application for renewal or the acceptance into the migration competency review. So all of those are already built in, and we have all these assets I mentioned that you could take advantage of when you become a migration competent partner of AWS. And for those of you that are still pursuing that path, we have the partner migration program that has very similar set of funding for initial discovery of the customer's environment, as well as the proof of concept and pilot, or even a cluster for your technical staff to get their hands-on with the service. So we have these programs available to you as a partner. So get in touch with us. We'll get you started right away if you're not part of these programs. And this is a reiteration of what we mentioned earlier. We have financial investments. We want to invest in you as a partner to give you the necessary funding in the form of cash, as well as service attached credits, so you could go to market with the service, really enable customers to accelerate the migration by running proof of concept or actual pilot configurations. So we have funding for those, in addition to the technical environment for your service team or your technical staff to get knowledge on this service. So get into the migration programs, the migration acceleration, for example, be sure to get investment in the migrations competency as a partner. Okay, and there's success path for all types of partners. If you happen to be a longtime VMware partner, you can get started in this journey by first taking the AWS Partner Network Navigate track for VMware Cloud and AWS. Is a prescriptive step-by-step of access to the self-service contents with white papers, solutions brief, technical training, business training to get the knowledge that you need, complementing what VMware Cloud and AWS competency that VMware has, that has a focus on the VMware stack. So this is complementing that with native service integration opportunities, as well as the technology foundation that you need to get started on. And you can start pursuing the various migration competencies based on your business needs and your customers' requirements. We have many competencies in different areas, from DevOps to databases to networking to security to migrations, for example. And for those of you that are born in cloud partners, what we have learned is that these partners are able to learn VMware skill sets real quickly because they have ongoing staff that have experience with VMware, and they're able to help the customers that used to have a lot of resistance and push back to go into cloud native type deployments. They're able to get these customers on board by doing the seamless migration using hybrid cloud extension or vMotion migration without refactoring anything to begin with. And they're able to expand the service portfolio to migrate the workload into AWS and modernize these applications without even refactoring these applications. Okay, so this is a quick overview of the APN Navigate track that I mentioned earlier. Again, it's a prescriptive set of steps that you have to click through. It's self-service. We give you access, and it opens up access to various levels of technical contents as well as business contents based on what you have clicked through. And it has a 3-hour training that's technical in nature and also has a 1-hour business training. So a lot of the partner bootcamp contents that we have today for partners from 8 to 5 happening right now is based on the APN Navigate track. So we take that forward by having instructor-led trainings that can be made available to you as a partner or a customer by being part of this APN Navigate track for VMware Cloud and AWS. And for those of you that have seen the announcement, AWS has the ability to resell the VMware Cloud and AWS service. So for customers, this is in response to customers and partners that prefer to transact with AWS. For example, they are negotiating ELA type EDP with AWS. They prefer to transact the opportunity with AWS. You do have the ability to do that. We want to give customers the flexibility and the choice to either transact with AWS or transact with VMware. So it's a customer and partner's choice. So the options out there. So the service level subscription is very similar to whether you transact with AWS or VMware. Is very much consistent. It's a matter of preference and the customer and partner choice. And lastly, these are the available resources that we have. So we have reference architectures across different workloads, Microsoft SQL, Oracle, end-user computing, network connectivity with Transit Gateway, Direct Connect. All of these are published in our public website under reference architectures. We have a dedicated section for VMware Cloud and AWS. So as a partner, you could take any of those and expand on your service portfolio offerings. Couple that with the migration acceleration program that we have, those thousands of workload patterns that we have learned from migrating customer workloads. Couple that with the reference architectures, you could have the flexibility to expand your service portfolio offerings. And as a customer, you could review these reference designs based on the industry best practices that we have come up with. And the call to action, to summarize, is get started today. We have hands-on lab that's available to you. We could have those provisioned using CloudFormation as well as Terraform. So we open source that code. So you as a customer could take advantage of that. And we have a single node SDDC. So this is for trial usage. It expires after 30 days. So this is really for you to get started. If you work for a partner and you want to have the hands-on experience, get in touch with us. We have a single day customer immersion day as well as partner workshops that we could deliver, and we can come to you and we could do all of these provisioning. So we could showcase the workshop in the box so you could take this to market as a partner and attract your customers to use the service. And if you're not a partner yet for VMware Cloud and AWS, get started today. There's an alias called VMC Partners at Amazon.com. So it's a live person that monitors this. Rima and myself are on the alias. So it's not a robot that responds automatically using AI. So it's a real person that responds to it. So send us the email, engage with us, and we'll take it from there. And let's see, I think we have used the time. So if you have questions, feel free to talk to us outside the room. So we do have to clear this area for the next presentation. We will stick around for any questions.